Good morning. My name is John. Obviously, if you're brand new, welcome to Prepper Nation. Thank you very much for being here. What a time to be alive here in the United States, isn't it? What an interesting time it is to be an American here in 2024. All kinds of neat stuff going on. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. There's a lot of chaos, but to be fair, it was predicted chaos. We knew about this last year. Many of us, myself, other people in chat, we were talking about the Summer of Love 2.0 and how we can expect this stuff to be going down. So I'm going to start this morning's video, as I sometimes do here at Prepper Nation for the newbies, with a story. But the story does have to do with this morning's topic. Don't get it twisted, son. So I got to tell y'all about old John when he was in elementary school, probably the fourth or fifth grade. I don't remember. I think it was the fifth grade. And old John, back then, I'm showing my age, but back then, corporal punishment in schools, that was a thing. Let me know whether or not you're a fan of that, but it was a different time, let me just say. And old John, for whatever reason, one fantastic day in music class, decided, no, I'm not going to follow the rules. Everybody else is going to follow John's rules. And, accordingly, I was sent to the office where Dr. Woolwine wore my tail out with a paddle. Had holes in it and everything. This thing hung on the wall. It was scary, but I digress. The point is, as I'm sitting there, wham, wham, I'm thinking, this is bad enough, but I'm going to get it so much worse when I get home because they also called the parents. I said, my mom is going to tear my tail up with a switch. And as fate would have it, she did just that. The point is, lessons had to be learned. Which brings us to some of the current chaos here in the United States of America. Columbia University, the University of Washington, to trigger some of you folks, right? It's Washington. I get it now. Thank y'all. Portland State University, UCLA, the list goes on and on and on, right? Certain colleges in certain conservative states weren't having it. I know the University of Florida basically said this is not a daycare. If it happens here, we're suspending and arresting, this sort of thing. But in liberal enclaves, these universities, they do anything and everything not to offend. They don't want to get up in anybody's feelings, right? They don't want to be offensive to anyone except Americans, apparently. So Columbia's Hamilton Hall, which is the Dean's Hall, I believe, at Columbia University, was taken over for a brief period of time. I thought we were going to see the reemergence of Chaz and Chop, the mighty nation of Chaz and Chop. Somebody needs to do a documentary on that nation, by the way. They went in, they took the building, apparently, these students and protesters and agitators, they barricaded themselves in. And, they did this because of all the, who knows why. The stuff that's going on in the Middle East, they don't approve. Here, let's barricade ourselves in the Dean's Hall. I think that has since, that territory or that sovereign nation, as they were claiming it was, Columbia's Hamilton Hall, they took it over as an autonomous zone. Again, they were trying to redo Chaz and Chop. And I think since that time, the New York City Police have went in and they've cleared it out. But that was the wrong thing to do. I'll catch some heat for that comment because a lot of people are like, send in the National Guard. This is ridiculous. Don't do that. There's a much easier way. If old John was governor, or dean or whatever, obviously I'm not. I'm sitting out here in a little shabby shantytown makeshift bunker, right? Lessons need to be learned. When they took this place over, this hall, for example, chain all the doors shut for like 30 days. Cut the water, cut the power. Let them figure it out. Let them hang a little sign outside like they did in Chaz and Chop, out of the windows saying we need shampoo and cigarettes and whatever else, vapes. Chain and shut. And tell them, get that bullhorn out and let them know. If you want to leave, it's very simple. You just knock on the door. We'll crack the door open. You sing God Bless America by Lee Greenwood and the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we'll unchain the door and you get to come out. You get to rejoin and reassimilate here into the United States of America. But you want your country, there you go. You figure it out. This would have been a great lesson, I think, for these children because that's what they are. They're nothing but grown baby children. All of these students and these agitators and these 20-somethings wearing their penny loafers and their skinny jeans and covering their faces up because they're cowards. That's what cowards do, right? And they're funded, these babies, these man babies and women babies, they're funded by enemies of the United States of America. Which brings me to mainstream media for a second, okay? Because they're also funded by enemies of the United States of America, in my opinion, okay? I don't have any paper trail to prove it, but I highly suspect it, all right? Mainstream media, what they should have done if they had any integrity, journalistic integrity whatsoever, they should have made this an itty bitty story back on like page 18 or something of the New York Times, rather than blasting it on the front page, because what these babies don't need is a platform, right? They don't need a platform, but they have a platform through social media and through mainstream media. I'll give you an example real quick. Social media. I went to X this morning, formerly known as Twitter, right? It was Twitter back during the reign of Chaz and Chop, which can only be compared to the Roman Empire, son. Again, sarcasm. Please don't unsubscribe. It's just a funny subject to me. So the top 3 trends on X this morning. I want you to think about all of the problems that we have in our world right now, and all of the problems here in the United States right now. These were the top 3 topics: UCLA, Whoopi Goldberg, and the NYPD clashes at Columbia. Are these really the 3 most important things that we have going on in our world right now? I went to BBC News, top story, actually the top 5 or 6 stories, the university stuff. Sky News, top 5 or 6 stories. It's crazy. These people are getting so much attention, and that's what these little bitty babies crave. And so the message this morning here at Prepper Nation is time to break the spell. We often laugh about the shiniest thing, and seriously, y'all know what I'm talking about. The misdirection. I was just talking about this last week. I predicted this was going to happen. It's going to be in all of the headlines of mainstream media. Meanwhile, the important stuff, remember that, chat? The important stuff is happening over here. But hey, look at the shiny stuff. And we laugh at the zombies for doing this. You know, the non-preppers, as we like to call them, and the uninformed. And yet so many people in this community are right now obsessed. We've got a lot of channels that are wannabe Tucker Carlsons, wannabe Wolf Blitzers, and it's just like we already have enough distraction going on. Can we not talk about the more important stuff? Focus on the actual storm. It's time to pick a side, folks. You're either going to be somebody that is drawn to shiny things in a very zombie-like way, or you're going to be somebody that's focused on the actual issues in our country. Hyperinflation. Can't deny it at this point. I just saw a report yesterday. Walmart is creating its own store brand to rival everything in its stores, grocery-wise, because they realize that's a huge market. $5 and less on everything. They're going to be trying to basically price out the national brands because they won't admit this, but because they know the American consumer is getting slaughtered in terms of finances and they can't afford to live much longer. And so they look at this as a huge opportunity because, you know, hyperinflation. Border invasion, that's still a thing. People seem to forget. Thousands a day coming in. To me, this is a bigger issue than little whiny man toddlers running around on a university and burning flags or whatever the case may be, which in itself is disgraceful. We're caught up in multiple wars as a country, funding both sides of multiple wars. I mean, it gets ridiculous after a while. if I'm focused on those three things rather than the university chaos that we knew is coming and that we know is going to spill out into the streets of liberal cities at some point in time this summer. It's coming. Prediction time, right? I'm focused on bringing down the cost of survival for this house as low as possible. Not taking on credit, not living on credit. How low can we go in terms of how much money do we need week to week to survive? That's what I'm focused on. How can we save money on food? Well, we can use food that we have already got in the stack that we prepared 3 or 4 years ago, right? We can bring prices down on certain things. I'm stacking self-defense items because I know violence is coming. I don't know that it's coming to this small of a city at least anytime soon, but I know this country is a powder keg. I don't care what happens at Columbia University, to be quite honest with you, and we'll get into that in a second. I care about what happens here at the Ponderosa on the property in this community, and I want to make sure that we're safe. And I'm preparing for wartime rationing because we seem to have a stiffy for war. And I don't see us pulling out anytime soon from the Middle East, from Europe. We're getting more and more entrenched in both. That is going to lead to rationing if something doesn't change. Here's why I don't care about Columbia University. And sorry, or UCLA, people will be, well, you should care. This is your country. Listen, I don't know the exact number, but I would say 90, maybe 95% of the staff at these universities, 95% of the student population, and the parents that are paying for the students to go to colleges here, they're mostly very liberal. So no, I don't have an issue with them eating their own. They caused this mess. You put liberal leadership in charge of a college, in Columbia University, for example, okay? You elect people, governors and things, mayors of cities that are also going to encourage this nonsense. You defunded the police. You brought in DEI to the universities. You allowed this to happen. So now that you're throwing your hand up and saying, oh my God, what is going on? A lot of people, I can't stand this crowd. I'm sorry if this is you, but I can't stand this crowd. Somebody needs to do something crowd, as I like to call them. You see this on social media all the time. What is going on in this country? I don't even recognize this country anymore. Somebody needs to do something. Well, you do. And you start by understanding this is not 1960, son. This is not the same country that you remember. It has totally changed, right? And until that light switch goes off, you're not prepared for what's coming next, in my opinion. So no, let these universities collapse into community colleges. I could care less. Let UCLA become a community college. Don't care. We still have an election in November, in case anybody out there forgot. That seems like a pretty big issue to me, okay? A lot of people said, there's not going to be an election in November. Maybe there won't be. We still got a long ways to go, right? I'm not saying that you're wrong, but as it stands, we have an election in November that nobody in mainstream media is talking about. You would think this would be one of the bigger stories. Biggest election of our lifetime, right? Biden is getting beat in the polls. Trump is edging out Biden in all of the polls. Fox News has him up by like 7 or 8 points. CNN's panicking. Oh my God, Trump's up 4 or 5 points. Kennedy is polling at 9% in many states. And this is an issue because independents typically poll at like 2 or 3%. Somebody's going to lose the election because Kennedy is in it, right? And if Trump loses because Kennedy's in there, there's going to be a lot of outrage. How did this happen? What is going on? Well, it happened because people were focused on the university chaos. A lot of Democrats, if Biden loses, how did this happen? Kennedy sold us under the river. No, this happened because those idiots were focused on the university chaos and nobody was really focused on the election. He is carrying a lot of the minority votes. He's carrying a lot of the younger votes. Kennedy, I'm saying, he's carrying a lot of the independent votes. People that are tired of the back and forth. between Trump and Biden. Make America great again, right? I'm not a fan of that slogan anymore. I have a better slogan, and I'm gonna talk about that in this afternoon's video. How will this play out, this election in November? That's going to be the discussion this afternoon. The video will drop, I'm not sure when. To be honest with you, it could drop this evening, it could drop tonight. Be sure you're subscribed so you get a notification. For you folks that support at the elite level, either on Patreon or the Coffee Club, as soon as it's available, within the next couple of hours, you will get that ad-free. It's a private video link. You folks get to see it before anybody else, okay? Thank you very much for being here. Y'all take care. God bless.